All right. Wait for this thing to go live. Good morning, everyone. We'll get this thing rolling on Instagram as well. Appreciate y'all tuning in this week. While we wait for some people to roll in, I'll let you know kind of what we got going on at Foundation this week, what restocks we have. Morning Instagram. We're live on Instagram, live on YouTube. We got a few disc releases. Well, one disc release and then some exciting restocks happening over at foundationdisc.com. First thing, the actual restock happening this week or release happening this week is the brand new Amethyst from Visionary Disc Golf. You might know Visionary as the net company. They're the company that makes the disc golf nets you've seen all over the Pro Tour, all over all of that. Well, they're releasing a disc. So their discs are made by MVP. So it's going to feel good. It flies pretty great. We actually had our hands on them early to test them. It's basically a very neutral to slightly overstable, but I wouldn't really call it overstable. Very kind of dead straight mid. Again, that's called the Amethyst. That drops this week. The other big stuff this week is the Trilogy restock and the Discraft restock. Those are going up. So basically all of the Trilogy we weren't able to get up last week, and the same with Discraft. And the Discraft, the two kind of heavy hitters are the restock on the Tour Series Zones and a restock on the Tour Series Buzzes, which are both extremely popular discs. So we got some of those hitting the site back in stock. So if you're looking for a very guaranteed sick looking disc, the Buzz and the Zone are going up. They should be live Friday as well. That's all we have on the docket for right now as of Tuesday this week, but you never know what is going to show up on our doorstep the rest of the week. So be sure to just keep checking the site throughout the week. And yeah, so if you're new here, basically what we do is we'll get to the Q&A section in a few minutes. While we wait for everyone to roll in, I kind of keep you up to date on things I'm learning, things going on in the business, things going on in life, and then we'll wrap it up with the Q&A section where you can ask me about whatever, wherever this thing goes. So today happens to be my birthday, funny enough, turning 27, which I've been told is either going to be the greatest or the worst year of my life, depends on who I ask. And so I thought it'd be fun to look back because 26 was a huge year for me. Just personally, it was a big year. I did something I never thought I was going to do, which is fell in love with running. Ran my first marathon. I watched my son turn into a toddler, and it went from being like this tiny little baby to a human I interact with. And throughout both of those things, I think those are the two big things throughout my life that drastically changed, I like to think, who I am, or at least opened my eyes to a lot of my shortcomings and ways that I can improve. And so I figured I would just share some of that with y'all, but selfishly so that I could write it out and have it for me to reference. Just things that I've learned throughout the past year. So the biggest thing when I was looking back on this past year, the number one thing that I learned was the importance of consistency and just consistently showing up and doing the little things. This was fully learned through running originally, and then I understood the importance and how it applies to everything else. Because so if we look at basically going into last year, 2023, I ran my first ever half marathon in February, really undertrained, really sucked, didn't work. Then from February through, I think in April-ish, somewhere in that time is when Jason, who works for us, convinced me it was me, Jason, Brody, and a guy who works for us, Kyle, that all kind of made a pact. Trevor was originally part of the pact, but he can't he has high ankle sprains that he just can't get to go away, unfortunately. It's not funny, but it just sucks for him. Us four decided we're going to run the Disney Marathon. So we committed to it. Ended up just Jason and I were ready running it. And then Jason had to drop out due to some family stuff. So it was just me that ended up running it. But during that process of I put that on the calendar, it was coming up this January, I had to commit to running and learning to run the right way. And what I discovered was that the life lesson from it was you just had to show up and do the little stuff every single day, and it compounded, right? And then I understood it was kind of a eye-opening moment to how that applies to the rest of your life. Because this really changed. I think the idea behind this changed my life a lot more than the running itself changed my life, of You just have to show up and do the little things, and the little things over time compound to something big, if that makes sense. So this applied a lot to foundation. This also applied a lot to, even the way you interact with your family. Just like, showing up and doing the little things for your wife, doing the little things for your son, doing the little things for yourself. Like those things compound to where down the road, then it turns into something much bigger. For running, those things compounded and led to being able to run a marathon, but that is a very small thing compared to, how much it's changed the way I operate foundation, the way I understand the business, the way I understand life through a different lens of you just show up, chip away at something. And if you chip away and do the same thing over and over and over again, it never feels like you're doing anything special. And then you look back and you discover, holy cow, I've come so far. I think that was kind of like the summary of my whole year 26 on earth, if you will, was just the importance of the consistently showing up and doing little things. But the secondary thing I learned throughout this was prioritizing time. This has been something that I've really struggled with since becoming a father because pre Luca, if we go back, he'll be 2 in August. So if we go back a year and what is that, 20 some months ago now? Um, if we go back pre Luca, then like you didn't really have to prioritize your time because like there was so much time. I didn't have to turn off work when I got home. Liz and I would have time together either as soon as I got home or if I wanted to go play golf, I could go play golf and then we'd have time later. I could stay up late because I could get up when I wanted to, whatever. Then you have a kid, all of that goes out the window because then obviously keeping the kid alive first off becomes priority number one, but then also the example you're setting for them and how present you are becomes a huge priority. And so it was really hard for me in the spot I'm in, and with foundation growing and changing as much as it has over the last few years, was figuring out how to turn off work and turn on family time, but not let either slip, if that makes sense. Because that's what you're always terrified of. When you love what you do, but you also love your family, is like you're worried if you don't dedicate all of yourself to one or the other, then it's going to slip. But what I learned, this past year was you just have to figure out things that aren't moving certain buckets forward and get it out of your life. So if you want to, if I want to get up and I want to throughout my day run, I want to work, I want to spend time with Liz and Luca, and I want to have time to read. Well, now I just have to think through those are my priorities, those are the things that have to happen, and I plan the extra stuff around that. So like if I don't have, maybe I can't take this meeting or I can't go get lunch with this person today or whatever because I have to prioritize this list first. And if whatever's going on that makes that list hectic, then you can't do it. Um, because for me, a lot of it was like I wanted to be really timely on responding to comments. I wanted to be really timely on responding to emails. If I got an email that was something really important for foundation, I felt like that couldn't wait till the next morning. But you have to over this last year, and I'm not good at this still, but I'm aware of it now, so I'm working on it of figuring out what's actually urgent and what just feels urgent, right? So like, what do you actually have to? If I don't take care of this right now, it's going to cost the company thousands of dollars, or it's going to cost me X, Y, or Z. And what just feels that way, which is like, well, no, if I wait, if I get an email at 6 o'clock and I wait till 8 the next morning to answer it, 99% of the time, there's nothing wrong with that. But before, that was the stuff that I'd be sitting at dinner, get an email, and next thing I know, I'd go to just respond to that, and then you're sucked down a work rabbit hole and you're not present. Um, or vice versa, really if family intercedes, like family is number one priority over work. So if you are late to work as a family, I mean, that just is worth it. So never mind on that side. But figuring out what's actually urgent and what it just feels that way, and then being all in on what you're doing currently. So if I'm at work, I'm all in on what's going on here. If I'm at home spending time with Liz, all in on that. If I'm playing with Luca, all in on that. If I'm going for a run or a speed workout, all in on that. And not trying to be at home while I'm also trying to work, or be at work and worried about home, whatever it is, like separating the buckets and being all in, all focused on the thing at hand, the task at hand, and then shifting that way. That's what works for me. Prioritizing like time management wise is just if I'm doing something, I'm doing that, and that's that. Um, really simple, something I should have figured out a long time ago, but I always, and I still do struggle with this, of like turning it off when I get home, where YouTube comments are always going to happen. Instagram DMs are always going to happen. Emails are always going to come in. Uh, the inventory issue or wrong price on a disc is always going to show up at some point, right? But do I have to face that right then when I'm at home? No, because what ends up happening is, again, then it sucks you down a rabbit hole. And next thing you know, you look up and you've worked for 3 hours at night. So now this next one is one that I've learned to be aware of over the last year. I still suck at, which is, it's a good thing to be wrong. I'm actually reading a book specifically trying to learn more about this. It sounds so stupid because it sounds so easy, but for me, it's really a hard thing. This book's called Think Again. I think it's by Adam Grant. Really great book. But how I previously perceived it, I'm a very competitive person, sometimes to a fault. Competitiveness is a good thing. Okay, I genuinely believe that because I think competitiveness is what drives us to be better. It's what drives each other to be better. It pushes people forward, and to me, I think it can be one of the greatest qualities, right, of being really competitive, because it means you're always going to push yourself forward. There's a healthy competitiveness though, and there's an unhealthy competitiveness. I've been able to find healthy competitiveness in running and being competitive with myself, right? Because I'm a slow runner. I always will be a slow runner. I'm not built for speed, never have been. But I can be competitive with myself and I can set times to beat myself. Same thing with golf and disc golf. But where the competitiveness becomes unhealthy is when it bleeds into every aspect of my life, which is what it historically has done. And this is one thing that I'm really trying to work on, right? Is this was kind of the unlock, was if you're always right, okay, if you're always right, then you'll never know more than what you know right now, right? Because being wrong doesn't mean you lost, it just means you're learning. So winning and losing doesn't directly correlate. Like being right doesn't mean you win, and being wrong doesn't mean you lose, which is how my brain kind of tied the two together historically. Because if I go into something and I have to be right, well then I can never learn more than what I know right now about whatever topic that is. And I don't know about y'all, but like there's no topic that I genuinely know more than everyone else in the world. So why do I think like that sometimes? That's been a big thing for me that I'm currently working on. That was more towards the end of my 26 year that I like had that unlock a little bit more, and I've been working on a lot more. But that's been a big thing, where it puts unnecessary strain on yourself, unnecessary strain on your relationships, unnecessary strain on a lot of things. When like it's actually good to be wrong, because if you're wrong, that means you have more to learn. So you want to be wrong more. And that's what Think Again. I'm only like 100 pages into it so far. I'll do a book review once I finish it. But phenomenal book. It's been great so far. A lot different than what I expected it to be, but it's awesome. The next one down, this has been really big. You've probably noticed I've been doing a lot of like trying to become a better leader, um, both at home and here at work. And one thing that I always historically struggled with, that I now have a better understanding of, is that delegation doesn't mean you're lazy, but it instead frees up time where you can make new things happen. Because before, if I have a bunch on my plate and there's something else that comes up, like I just want to add that to my plate because I don't want to put it on someone else's plate, because A, I don't want to overwork someone else, but B, it almost felt like I'm being lazy, like I can do it. But that's not necessarily true. Like, yes, do I have the capability of adding another thing? Sure. But if you push that to someone who is a lot of times better at it than you, A, it's going to get done better, but B, it then takes all the time that you're going to put into that and it frees it up for you to go pursue something else. Right. So at work, for instance, right now, there's like, let's think through this, right? We probably have one, two, three, four. There's probably five. I think I can confidently say five pretty big projects, we'll call them, that typically, historically, if you go back a few years in foundation, I'm heading up and focusing on all of them, that I'm not heading up or focusing on any of them. So what that allows is these five things are going to happen at the same quality or better quality than I could do. but I'm not spending time and energy on them. So now the time and energy that have the 5, right? The time and energy that I would have dedicated to these, I can now dedicate to 5 other things, or to pursuing things like the redesign of the site, like this other project I'm working on. But the big one that y'all know about is the redesign of the site, which should be launching today or tomorrow, the product pages. Like that is a somewhat big undertaking. I've only done like 10 products so far, 5 products so far. Now that I have the flow and the general design done, it's a lot of copy and paste between products, so it's a lot easier. But like that stuff would never happen if I was only focused on those. So it would make the growth and the movement of the business way slower. And then we would be able to accomplish our mission at a much slower pace than what we are currently. Um, and the final thing I've understood, and this is actually a big one. Again, a lot of this comes back to running. I don't try to only talk about running on here, but it just has impacted me so much because it's changed the way I perceive things. And one of the big things I wrote was like the your outlook is your world, and then can become the world of those around you, right? So if you see, we'll go with the glass half full, glass half empty, right? If you see the glass half full, the glass is half full. If you see the glass half empty, it is half empty. When you apply that to the world around you, like if you see everyone is coming at you and attacking you, well, then everyone will be coming at you, attacking you, because that's your perception. If you see the positive in everything, well, then everyone around you is going to be positive because that's just how you perceive it, right? So your perception changes the way the world is around you and the way that you interact with everything. So you can actually change your direct world by changing the way you perceive your direct world, right? Because if you see everything as negative, you see yourself as the victim of everyone's attack, you see yourself as all, then you will be, because that's just how it works. Whereas if you see yourself however other way, like the first part of change is like seeing yourself that way. So when it comes to running, the runs where I think they're going to suck, the runs where I think my legs are really heavy, the runs where I think it's going to suck, it does. Versus the exact same run, but I'm able to shift my mindset into a different mindset where I'm just like trying to just chug through it or whatever, it sucks way less. And that's just how I feel like it works. But then the important part with this is you can now see it spill over into others. The most exact example of this is when you have a kid, your kid will be like you, like how you interact with, like how I interact with Liz. Luca will start to interact with Liz, my wife, that way. How I interact with other people, Luca starts to do that. Luca starts to have the same mannerisms as me. So like it's not that it doesn't impact other people because like it also overflows into your friends, and your friends' perspective of the world can overflow to you. It can overflow into, all kinds of stuff. But the thing that really opens your eyes to it is when you have a kid and they start doing stuff and you're like, why on earth are you doing that? Don't do that. It's bad. And you're like, oh, you're doing that because you watched me do that. And you watched, that's how I handled stress. So now you handle stress that way. Or that's how I react to something not going my way. So that's how you're going to react to something not going your way. So changing your outlook on the world around you and how you perceive things that are happening to you can drastically change what's actually going on around you, if that makes sense. Hopefully that makes perfect sense. But all right, let's kick off the Q&A section. I actually want to talk to our patrons and non-patrons super fast to kick off the audience engagement section, if you will. If you are a Patreon member, a Heiser Club member, why? And if you haven't joined our Heiser Club, why? This isn't. This is simply I want feedback. So brutally honest, do whatever you got to do. Um, I'm just curious here. We'll probably actually, I think we're going to do a Zoom call specifically with Heiser Club members to get like direct feedback of like, why did you join? What do you like about being a Heiser Club member? What do you wish was different? So on and so forth. But for the general people who are in here, which a lot of times is the dedicated foundation fan base, if you are a Heiser Club member, why? Why do you keep being a Heiser Club member? And if you haven't joined, why? What keeps you from being a Heiser Club member? And I understand finances can be a thing that keeps people, I'm saying beyond just, I would if I could. I understand that. I totally get that. Don't if you can't. But if there's like something specific, why? I'm just curious of that. Michael Kern says he loves the mailbag and the behind the scenes post from Jason. That makes sense to me. That's what we try to put a lot of time, energy, and effort into. So great. Glad to hear those are being, people love those. Shay says he joined for the content, started catching strays in the mailbag, which resulted in a blood feud between me and a ginger. That's funny. It's very funny. Okay, we'll just keep firing those. I'm gonna answer some questions, and then as the like Heiser Club feedback comes in, I'll continue to read that out. Um, let me see. I think I missed a few questions. If I didn't answer your question, feel free to ask it again. Gbon V3 said, "Morning, Hunter and chat. First time catching one of these. Been awesome so far. Appreciate you tuning in." Oh, you also gave us good feedback. I am because I deeply enjoy watching y'all. You seem like my friend group and people I want to be around and listen to. That's awesome. See, that's what we're trying. That's the vibe we try to give off. So I love when people get that. Because it's awesome when we meet Heiser Club members or just Foundation fans in public and like y'all feel like you're talking to your best friends. For us, it takes a second for us to catch up because a lot of times y'all know references that we forget. But it's just a really cool feeling and it's just awesome to be a part of. LCS says, "How come you guys normally play 4 or 5 courses for video? Why do you have a couple that you don't play much?" Um, Mainly just proximity to the office and how they align for videos. I think the course that we would play a lot more if we were closer is Falling Creek. It's like 25 minutes away from us, but that's like that course would be perfect for so many videos. It's just more of a drive than like a few courses that are 5, 10 minutes away. Um, so that's one of the reasons. Beyond that, a lot of them like just it's just how they align with videos. Because like if we're doing a wheel challenge or like a weird disc challenge, then like you don't really want to go to a really difficult course because as much as people think it'd be entertaining, it's not gonna be entertaining if that's what we're doing every time. It'll be entertaining one off. Like if we went to like we do the hardest course with the like a glitch or whatever, those are really fun. But if we did that nonstop, um, then that's where it could not be as fun. Oh, G-Bond's Great Bond Trigger. Okay. How's it going, Grant? I should have put the 2 and 2 together. G-Bond, Grant Bontrager. Should have made sense. Circle One Break says, "I may have just missed it, but do you guys ever do that small disc golf business university you opened applications for about 6 months ago?" Yeah, we're 5 months in or 4 months in. This is month 5. So there's been 4 sessions so far. It's called the Creator Academy. It's been great. I think there's like 60 people in there. There was hundreds that applied, and we tried to go through. I went through every application and like handpicked people that I saw potential in for different areas. Um, and yeah, it's been good so far. I feel like they're getting good value. We get good value out of it, so it's just a lot of fun. It's been great. Adam said, "I'm not even sure what type of content is put out." I do think that's a big thing. Is just our marketing. Um, our marketing is not the best for Patreon, so um, we're trying to increase that over the next month or so. Because a lot of people I think would support if they knew everything that we did over there, but people just don't know because we don't tell them. It's that simple. Another person don't know a ton about the Heiser Club. Um, do I have permission to get the podcast and channel's logo tattooed on me? Absolutely. I don't know. Yes, is the question. The answer to that. I mean, that's crazy. I don't even know. I don't know if there's a foundation tattoo out there. To be honest with you, there might be one, but that's wild. If you're down for that, that'd be crazy. It's my favorite plastic for zones. Personally, I love an ESP zone. I think that it flies a little bit straighter. I think it flies a little straighter than a Z zone. Um, has a little more glide, has a little more push, and that's just what I like out of my zone. So that's what I go with. Eric said something I've wanted to do for a long time, but my budget's tight. My wife and I agree the money should go to our boys. Absolutely, Eric. No, that's the Patreon I fully understand because it's just content. Like that's what we don't have. Like there's discount on the site, so like it can make sense financially for some people if you already are shopping with us regularly to earn the discount. Like it'll save you the same amount of money, but that's only if you're already regularly shopping with us. So we never ever want to put people in a position where we put out so much content that you can enjoy it without being a Patreon member. So I fully understand um, where it just is another subscription to add on to a long list of subscriptions. Fully get that. Tactical Trev says a previous member, but no longer feels like the return on the expense. That makes sense. Not sure if there's more perks now compared to a couple years ago. Oh, there's compared to a couple years ago, completely different Patreon. Not even we've redone everything. We even have Jason now runs it, and that is probably 30% of his job. I don't know. It's a decent chunk of his job is just Patreon. So there's multiple times a week behind the scenes posts going up. We have a weekly Q&A show called the Mailbag where we answer some very crazy questions, but hey, that's the fun of it. Ad-free Grip Lock goes up on there. There's a monthly exclusive video that we get the suggestions from the Patreon and then turn that into a video that's only for Patreon. There's the Heiser Club store that has some merch, but the big draw there is a lot of times we get some exclusive discs or the certified used always drops to them first. There's early access to different releases. I think I said discount codes for the $10 and $20 tier, and then the annual members who join in January have the Heiser Club Championship that they get invited to for the $10 and $20 tier, and the 5, $10, and $20 tier all get the Heiser Club disc, which is super exciting. So, yeah. If I could put a billboard for Foundation Disc Golf anywhere in the world for free, where would I put it? Good question. To be honest with you, I think what I would do is I would probably put it on obviously a really busy highway, like LA or New York or somewhere, and I would make it more about just disc golf, not about Foundation. It's just you should try, scratch your golf itch for half the price or fourth the price even, I don't know. And then just put foundationdisc.com at the bottom. So I'd make it more about the sport awareness if I was just getting a billboard for free than about brand awareness, if that makes sense. Dill Mill says, what's your best advice for first-time dads? Have my first one on the way in July. First off, congrats. Buckle up. First month is going to be bad. It's going to be rough. But once you push through that, there's a light at the end of the tunnel, right? You're not going to sleep. It's going to be a lot of adjusting. But as soon as week 4 hits, something just clicks. So that first month, try to just savor it, because now what's crazy is I'm, like I said, 20 months removed from it. I'd love to go back to that first month of Luca, for us, he only went to sleep on us. So my wife and I were taking shifts back and forth of who was holding Luca. But to be able to hold him, he was just right here. The kid, if he stood on my legs right now, is this tall. Easily this tall. Out of nowhere. He's that tall. What happened? And I can't hold him anymore. I can carry him, but I hold him like a baby's long gone. So I think just soak when you get super frustrated, because you will. It happens. Babies, I think, are designed to push all of our buttons. I think that's just what they do. When that happens, just try to remember, there's a light at the end of the tunnel coming very soon. 4 weeks in the grand scheme of everything, not that bad. Most babies start to sleep better at that point, sleep for longer periods of times, and then you'll start to, once you have went through that stretch, then 3 hours or 4 hours of continuous sleep feels like a full night's sleep. So that's I think keeping that in mind when you first get home really helps keep you sane, because I didn't understand how quickly it was going to be over. It just felt like it was never going to end. And then once week 5 and 6 hit, then we got our life back. And I was like, oh my word. But then you kind of miss it. A few weeks later, you miss it and you want to go back. So the sleep deprivation is going to be bad, but no, it's a very short period in the grand scheme of things. It's going to, end quick. And then really savor the time where they're not moving. They're just kind of laying there in your hands, because you'll blink and that's gone. because out of nowhere they'll be 6 months old, rolling over, crawling, and then once they start crawling, they start pulling up on stuff, and then there's so many milestones. You want them to get to the next one, but then once you get to the next one, you're like, okay, it's sick. You're walking, but like, can you go back to not? So, yeah, just take it, and you'll be surprised at what you just know to do. Like you just trust your instincts and trust your wife's instincts more than yours. They call me Log, says, "We guys be around during Worlds. My buddy and I are huge followers. Love the foundation, guys. Hope to meet y'all. We're going to be all over here during Worlds. There's going to be events for the public going on pretty much every night during the week that we'll be at. We'll be out at the course. We'll have in-store releases. Yeah, it's going to be incredible. So, highly recommend anyone who's thinking about coming to Worlds, go ahead and book the trip, make it happen. It's going to be some incredible disc golf. And then if you're a foundation fan, we've got a lot of stuff going on that week. Like, we're gonna have 5 days of disc releases in store. So 5 different custom stamps, one for each day of Worlds. That'll be exclusive to Worlds. Anything that's extra, we're gonna take to USDGC. I don't really think there's gonna be any left over, but you got to be here to get those. We'll have some just exclusive Foundation Lynchburg stamp stuff. And like I said, we're going to have a bunch of different community events. One I think that's already been announced is we're doing a like charity tournament with the Isaiah 117 house. It's going to be over at Timbrook. We're going to have food trucks, all that stuff. It's going to be a blast. We'll play one round in the daylight and then one round of glow is the plan. And like I said, that's charity fundraiser for the Isaiah 117 house, which is awesome. We love supporting them. So if you're coming to Worlds, a lot of stuff going on. You're not going to miss that. Okay. Favorite disc I found from the month of MVP, that was a while ago. Probably the Hex. It's not in my bag currently, only because they're just not readily available. So it's hard, like, if I lost one, I don't know when I'm gonna get another one, but the Hex, I think, was the best. Okay, this is back for the Heiser Club. LCS says, "I've listened to every episode of Grip Block going back to Zach, as well as most of the other Foundation podcasts. I feel like I already have enough content." Very fair. That makes perfect sense. Vivek Aurora said, "Will Foundation ever become a manufacturer, or will you always remain on the retail/content side?" Probably just retail/content side. I don't really see I don't see us getting into the manufacturing game, at least not in the way that people are doing it right now. Like, I don't understand the draw of if we were to get Discraft to make a disc and private, like, label it Foundation, but everyone knows it's made by Discraft. Like, I don't understand that draw personally. Um, and that's the only way we would ever consider getting into it, because like the price of buying your own machine or like going to a different manufacturer, like with you have to have like minimum machine runtime and stuff like that, like it's just a huge investment. um and so I will we ever I'm not going to say we will never, but we're not actively pursuing it, if that makes sense. So it's not on the horizon. I won't say we will never do it, just because I that would be an absolute, but I don't think we will, if that makes sense. How does player performance change signature series sales like AB disc compared this year to last year? So AB, um, it went up, but I think it's more about consistently good performance. Because like AB came out and just dominated this first stretch of tournaments, so his name's been on everyone's mouth. If you just flash in the pan, show up, win one, and go away, that doesn't really do anything nearly as much. Now, what will I think do something is Andrew Presnell winning the major and then choosing the new Discraft Swarm as his Tour Series disc. Swarm is going to sell a ton because it's a brand new overstable Discraft mold, right? And it's going to be in that Z Flex Jawbreaker plastic. So, like, that is just by nature going to sell. So, Andrew's good performance got him that disc, which is going to sell with or without him, if that makes sense. So, that kind of directly impacted it, but by an indirect way. If you hear loud noises, they're running the electrical for our sign today. So, um, they're doing a lot of work out there if you hear anything going on. Let's see. Lane said, "A little late, but I was at DDO. How do you feel about the King foot fault and the missing playoff? Felt like a sore loser play to me." and then she threw a fit and didn't come sign autographs. It definitely felt like a sore loser play to me. It's hard to know because like I wasn't there. I was just watching through coverage. But with how long she took after it happened to call it, it felt like just a last ditch effort. Um, I don't think it was a great look. Her not showing up for autographs also not a good look. Although I did hear the autograph booth was kind of hard for players to find, so some players just didn't even know it existed. So maybe she signed autographs like next to 18's green and then walked to her car and just didn't know where that autograph booth was. But yeah. Adam and Eric asking about my foot. My foot's back to normal. Well, as back to normal as it can be right now. I mean, it doesn't hurt anymore. Skin still hasn't healed, so the nail still kind of looks gross, but doesn't affect running or anything like that. All back to normal. Tactical Trev said last week's warehouse update you showed a foundation stamped cyclone you mistook for a passion. Did the cyclones ever hit the site? So they ended up not hitting the site. That was my bad. I shouldn't have shown them. Actually, I was supposed to have one set aside for someone. I need to find that. It's because we only had like 4 of them, 3 or 4, something like that, left from Music City, and so they ended up just only putting them in store. So they're in the Lynchburg storefront. Um, but that's my bad because I promoted them because I thought we had more and I thought they were going on the site, but with only like 4 of them, they didn't end up. So that was my fault. Sorry about that. Coming out the first weekend in July to my dad's in Fredericksburg, gonna stop through Foundation Store on my way back to Kentucky. Will you guys be in town? Would love to see you and the crew. I don't know, but when you stop in the store, you can always just ask the guys up front. And if we are back here, we'll pop out and say what's up. Okay, let me try to get back to current here. All right. Ethan said, um, oh, Lane said she told people no next to 18 because she would be at the booth and they just never showed at the booth. Yeah, that's a tough look. That's a tough look. That's brutal. Ethan said in Middle Tennessee, he was bummed I couldn't make it to Music City Open to visit you guys. Were you able to explore Nashville area at all while you're here? Any highlights? Yeah, so I actually stayed. Oh boy, stayed with one of my friends in Franklin, Tennessee, and so we went all around downtown Franklin. We went over into Nashville. Highlight of the trip, kind of two highlight. It's a very food oriented trip. We had a lot of food. Hattie B's was definitely a big highlight. And highlight number 2 was Dicey's Pizza, also very good. But I got to explore Nashville. Really cool area down there. Let's see. After the move and the extra work, are you organizing a team getaway or bonus for all the extra work? Not really a team. We do a lot of just like staff game nights, staff weeklies, staff like just good times. And I think everyone kind of loved the moving process. It's kind of fun when you have a switch up and like something new and fresh. So I think the just having a workspace that is clean and isn't unfinished concrete or unfinished drywall, that's a pretty big bonus for all of us. So JRZE said, "What did I do full time before disc golf content slash business?" So I started Foundation when I was in college, my junior year of college. So I don't really have a work history prior to this, other than I worked through college. So what I did was, as soon as I graduated high school, I started working at my brother's coffee shop, which is funny enough, 2 doors down from our store. If you ever come by, I worked there for about 2 years, and while I was doing that, I was doing freelance graphic design and social media management on the side. Mainly ended up, this wasn't intended, but it mainly ended up being for real estate agents. My other main client was had a few real estate people that I was doing. Some I was doing full social media for, some I was just doing graphic design, some I was doing both. And then I had a dentist. I don't even try to think what they even were. A dentist. Basically, it was leadership consultation for dentists, if that makes sense. And so they did a bunch of like workshops, a bunch of like online courses, classes, and I ran their social media and then did their graphic design. not website design, just like mainly print graphic design and social posts. Graphic design, I did that for year and a half or so. I was just on like a monthly retainer with them. Um, and all of that stopped when Brody bought into Foundation in July or May of 2020. He brought in. Come July of 2020, it was so busy that I just had to. I stopped taking on new clients probably around June, and then July, I like emailed everyone I was working with and was like, I'm going all in on this Foundation thing. So it'll be 4 years of me working full time at Foundation in like 2 months. So that's kind of my work history before. A lot of it helped with Foundation. Um, but yeah, that was kind of how I got here. Max said, you mentioned hole six or whatever is the hardest hole in disc golf out at New London all the time, but how do you feel after watching Northwood? 12 and 14 seems so much tougher. No, yeah, whole Northwood 12 is definitely tougher. No doubt about it. Yeah. Um, partially because the par might be wrong. Hole six at New London is definitely a par five. Like it's not a par six, but it just plays very, very tough. Northwood hole 12 is a par six. They just have it as par five because like who's going to make a par six? But Northwood hole 12 is definitely the. I've played hole 12. It's tough. It's definitely tougher. Um, I just like to call hole six the toughest hole in disc golf, mainly because I suck at it. But it's a very, very hard hole. OB on the right the whole way. I've only ever seen it birdied like once. But the par isn't that hard if you keep the disc in the fairway, which is disc golf. You know what I mean? Adam said, if I had to play New London once a day, how long would it take for me to break 68? My putter feels great right now. So I think I could do it within, if I was playing once a day, I think I could do it within the next 2 weeks. If I played New London once a day for the next 2 weeks, I think I'd do it. Um, yeah. Let's see. Any chance I'll do more after moving day live streams? That was a lot of fun. After moving day live streams. I don't know what that was. Moving day at the major. Yeah. Yeah, I think I'm gonna try to do that for every major. Because I that's a piece of content we really want to bring. If you don't know what Shay's talking about, basically on the Grip Block channel, after moving day at Champions Cup, I went live, broke down the leaderboard, broke down how I was understanding what was going on, and then gave you kind of what to expect going to the final day. That's a piece of content I think really missing in the disc golf world that we want to bring. Um, Eventually, maybe next year, we'll be able to dedicate more time to make it happen for every single Pro Tour event. This year, I want to make it happen for every major. So I did it for Champions Cup. I think I'm gonna do it for European Open. Worlds will be a little tricky, and USDGC because we'll be at those events, but we can still make it happen. Just might be a little later. So yes. When's the Heiser Club thing at the end of the year? Need to save for flights. Hopefully, we'll have dates for you within the next week or two. Okay, let me try to get back to current on Instagram. I like pause on a question, and then next thing you know, um, CB Hills, I started spin putting because of you. Definitely a game changer for me. I use the Rainmaker. What's something you compare to that? The P2. The Rainmaker was just a slightly modified P2. So if you just use the P2, it'll probably be a little weird for a week or two, but you'll get used to it. Yeah. Yak says you can't give a number like 2 weeks and then not back it up, give the people what they want. As soon as Trevor breaks 57 at Independence, we'll bring break 68 back. Or if December comes and he hasn't done it, then January it'll be break 68 time again. But like we're not gonna make 14 videos of me going out there every day. And if I broke it, then the whole break 68 series would be dead. So, we gotta it's a great piece of content. It just has to happen at some point. But I do think whenever I start it again, I think I'm gonna do it. Especially if I can get my spin putt going. All right, we'll take one more question and then we're gonna pop off of here. Um, what question? Okay, we'll take two here. We'll take two here. So Brendan said, "Did you guys create Ripped Revenge or just invest in it?" Curious how that came about. So Ripped Revenge, funny enough, it was actually an Innova game, card game back in the day. It was like sold, distributed through Innova. Um, Zach and I had played it a long time ago. I don't remember when it was. We had played it before Foundation. Then we were trying to come up with an idea for a video for a Foundation face off, is what we used to call them. And either I or him, I don't remember which one of us remembered Ripped Revenge, but we couldn't find it. It wasn't sold anywhere anymore. We looked everywhere. It didn't exist. I was like, what the heck? They must have went out of business. That sucks. So we just wrote out the cards we could remember on a piece of paper and we played that way. And we still called it Ripped Revenge. And we said at the beginning, like, hey, this card game, we can't find it. If it exists, let us know, blah, blah, blah. And the founder of Ripped Revenge reached out to us after that video and was like, hey, we still exist. We're kind of going through a transition period because, like, basically they were going through a split with Innova, it seemed. He never really said that, I don't think, but that's what it kind of seemed like. So he's like, I'll send you a pack. So he sent us a pack of Ripped Revenge cards. We played Ripped Revenge the next video with the actual cards. People loved it. We're asking all about it, how to get it, whatever. So then we placed a wholesale order with them and did another video, sold out of our wholesale order. And then they were kind of back on the map a little bit because those videos were doing very well. And so then we kind of just struck a partnership where, like marketing partnership with them. So that we don't own any of Ripped Revenge. We just market for them. And we don't even like it's not even we have to put out X amount of videos. I mean, we haven't done a Ripped Revenge video in months, but that's because the two we've shot have gotten accidentally deleted. Funny enough, the only thing that we have ownership or partnered with them on is the expansion pack, which you can find. I think is still in stock on our site. Um, we partnered with them on the Ripped Evolution, is what we called it, and it basically turns your Ripped Revenge into a deck building game. Really, really fun. Um, so we partnered with them on that, and we kind of own and get royalties on that product. We don't own it; we get royalties on that product. But Ripped Revenge itself, we don't own. So, and then Alex, the final question was going to ask. Wow, the final question I was going to answer is Alex said, any plans to go on another team trip to play new courses and make content? So we're never going to do a 2 week trip again, but we do have plans to go and make smaller trips throughout this year and play some different courses that we want to play for a new series of content, we're going to call it. You'll also see a post here pretty soon announcing the return of a different series of content that will also involve us traveling. So we're going to travel to maybe a total of like 6 different courses throughout the course of this year, maybe 5, somewhere in that range. But we're not doing a tour anymore. That was just way too much on us, way too much on our family. So that's going to wrap up this week's coffee break. Appreciate all of y'all from tuning in, whether you're on Instagram or on YouTube. If you just tuned in to one or the other, I'd appreciate if you went back to the beginning and watched the first part there where I shared some different stuff. But other than that, we'll be back here next week, same time, same place for, another update. Appreciate y'all.